Do you have the record sign?
Yes.
Do you still agree to the recording of this podcast
Yes.
and the release of this podcast on various platforms?
Yes.
Everyone, welcome Kaitlin to Blanco's Conversations.
Hello.
Hey, I'm so glad you're here. And you're one of those people that I've always had great affection for you. For people who don't know, we're family. You're like the younger generation of our big, large family. And
We're the
we're the light skin. That's right. I call us the LLs. That's the light skin Latinos.
they got like thumbs.
Yeah. Well, most of us, me and you are on the lighter side of toast. Most people are like the brown, but we have a few burnt ones too. So we have a few like light ones, burnt ones, but most of them are pretty brown. But I've always had great admiration and affection for you, and now I learned that you've grown up to be this remarkable young woman. You're 22, on the verge of being 23. You're in college. You're an athlete. Just everything. You are everything I think a parent could probably ever wish for, or a family member. Just proud to claim you as one of us. But real quick, just go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself. What do you think people should know about you?
So I'm 22. I'm a college student. I'm in school right now studying physical education. So I want to be a teacher. I've wanted to be a teacher since I was a very, very little girl. Since I think first grade is really when
Wow.
I had I want to be a teacher. I think I lost sight of it a little bit as I got older, but I've kind of been through a few different paths of college, trying different majors. So now I definitely know I want to be a teacher. I think I'm still a little unsure, even though I am a physical education major, if I really am going to stick with that. So we'll see. I've wanted to be a math teacher also. So I don't know. I still have a lot to figure out.
Listen, I'll be 45 next week, and I'm still in the same boat as you. I'm still trying to figure stuff out, so don't feel bad about that.
Well, it's always changing. Everyone's minds change. You grow, and your mind, your surroundings change. So
Yeah, so I've met very, very, very rare, but I've met a handful of people in my life that from early on in their life, they always knew what they wanted to do, and they never varied. They just went straight on that track. And I'm like, who are you people? I have all these different things going on in my head.
And I thought I was gonna be like that because for so long it was I want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. And then I think it was more high school. I had a teacher that was like, "Don't be a teacher," and I was like, maybe I should rethink this.
Right.
And then I was like, when I got to college, I was like, well, maybe let me try a few different majors, see what's out there.
What did you try? Tell me. What kind of majors did you try?
So I started out as a sports management major.
Okay.
So more the business side of sports. And I remember, so I actually started out in Portland.
Okay.
And I remember being in class and the major's predominantly male. And even the major I'm in right now, physical education, is predominantly male. So, a lot of the times in my classes, I'm one of maybe 3 or 4 females in the class. But I would hear them talking about sports, the games that are going on. And I as much as I've played sports in my life, never been a big person on watching sports.
Mm.
I don't really follow it as much. So I'd be I don't know if I can be in the sports world. I don't think I know enough about other sports too to be in the business side of it.
You enjoy playing the sports. You're not so much a fan of the other aspect, like you said, watching and constantly gossiping over sports like people do in the barbershop.
Yeah, and what I think it is too, I'm more of I like to be there. I'll go, my dad's actually an assistant coach for Grover Cleveland. And I go to his games, I enjoy going to the games. I get very like upset and amped up watching the games. Like I'm one of those people, but I like being there. You know, I think sitting down watching them on TV, it's just not the same experience.
You're the in the moment type of gal, I think.
Yes, definitely. And I think that was the problem with like finding a major is like, you know, you take these classes, but when you're in the real world and you start a job, like it's realistically nothing like the classes you're taking, you know?
You are so wise. You are so wise. It took me a while to figure that out. Yeah.
I'm like, you know, I read all these different descriptions of classes and majors, like, wow, that sounds like so much fun. That's what I want to be in. And then it's like, you kind of take the class, you're like, can I see myself in this? And then it's like, all right, well, now if I'm in the real world and I'm working this job, like, what am I going to actually be doing?
Yeah.
You know?
It's completely different things. It's like when you grow up and you watch movies about someone who's like a doctor, a lawyer, or a policeman, you get this impression in your head of what that job is like. And it's so thrilling because it's a movie or a TV show or a book. But then you talk to people or you actually get into that profession and you realize that aspect of it that they focus on is like 1% of what you might be doing. The other 99%, you're doing something that you absolutely do not want to do.
Yeah. So, and I feel like I was just talking the other day to a classmate about this, that I feel like in the college world, like being in your degree, especially when you're not working as, you know, a young adult, you know, you're out of high school, you know, you're only 18, 19 years old. Like, first of all, like, how are you really supposed to know what you want to do with the rest of your life? Right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think the other thing that even in my own major bothers me is the lack of opportunities they give you to actually like experience the workforce. And, you know, like some majors have internships and stuff like that, but like the major I'm in, like you can't do a teaching internship. You do classes and then you're observing at a school and you're watching. It's not the same thing when you're in front of the kids. And I've learned that the hard way. Like I can sit and watch these teachers all I want, but you know, I get in front of those students and like I get nervous now because it's like I'm expected to execute this lesson plan I just wrote and I'm freezing up because you know you have that judgment like what if I look like I don't know what I'm doing up here, you know, and it comes with practice. And I think just there should be more opportunities for us to practice, especially in when you're in college, like whether it's more internships, more like even like if you have like a part-time job or something where they help you out and get that, so you get that experience and really know if that's what you can see yourself doing.
Yeah, again, you're like me and you must, our brains are aligned. I remember having a conversation. I don't know if I've done a podcast about it, but I know I've had a few conversations about this, which is I feel the way our system is set up, which is like, you know, yeah, you go to school, you graduate high school, and then like you're like you said, you're like 18 years old and you have to decide what it is you're going to do for the rest of your life, right? At that point, because you're going to choose a major, let's just say, in theory. And you're going to study something for a minimum 4 years or maybe 8 years or something if you're going to be like a doctor or something. And you've never done that job. You don't know what it is. So you're going to spend all this time and money doing something. Then you're going to get there and be like, well, this sucks. I don't want to do this. It's like it's reverse. It's like you should be doing the job first, or at least experiencing it. Like you said, an intern, or there's like practicals or something. I don't know what it is. I think the people who get it right early, in my opinion, have good mentors. People with connections who could be like, oh, you want to be a teacher? Oh, my friend's a teacher. Here, talk to them. Oh, go to work with them a few times and just kind of, you know, sit by their side and you gotta get to figure it out. But for the rest of us, we're like, I don't know. I just spent $100,000 to be a veterinarian. And guess what? I don't like animals.
And that's why a lot of, yeah, right. And, you know, I hear all the time from like, you know, adults I've spoken to, like, yeah, no, I don't use my first degree. Like there's people in my majors that are in they went back to school to get a second bachelor's degree because, you know, like they didn't know what they wanted to do, you know? So
yeah.
Tough.
Yeah. So I want to get back into give people who are listening a little bit more perspective on you and content. So you're a sports person. What was your first sport? Like, what was the one that you got into and you loved? And
So the first one for me was basketball. I started at the age of 10. I had tried a few different things before then. From young, my parents always try to put me into stuff like I tried karate. Not a fan. That was rough.
okay,
I play like tap dancing. And then like when I got to fifth grade, they put me into basketball that year and they put me into softball. Softball was not my
no,
thing. Like it was very rough. And I was like, I never want to play this sport again.
okay,
It was a one and done for softball for sure. But basketball I ended up sticking with. And, you know, I played basketball for a pretty long time. And there's days that I miss it and wish that I would have, tried to play college basketball and stuck with it. And then there's some days that I think about the stress that I had on myself from playing. So it's like, the mix of both of like regret and then also like, all right, well,
yeah.
I played volleyball in college. So like that was kind of my college experience.
Okay, so let's start with the basketball. What was it about basketball that made you, stick to it for as long as you did?
So when I think back, because I was only 10, so it was quite some time ago. I really don't know because I remember Jared was very young at the time. So Jared would play basketball. Like we had like the little basketball hoop or whatever in the backyard. So like he'd play with his dad and I would want to play also and be part of it. So I think that's kind of what like started. My dad, very big basketball player for a very long time. Loves basketball. My mom played basketball. So I think like it all kind of came together
Yeah.
and I stuck with it from there. And then in sixth grade, my dad had put me on an AAU team. And I wasn't a fan of the team. I only did it for like 1 or 2 months. And then seventh grade, I found a different team, AAU team, and I played seventh and eighth grade with them along with CYO. And then I played basketball all through high school. And my freshman year, I made varsity.
Ooh.
I was a young team, but like I played AAU. And when you're going from like playing AAU to a public school sports is just not that great.
Oh, okay.
It really isn't. Like if you want to play like really good competitively, I would say like Catholic school is like where you would really like get that atmosphere.
Wow, you are definitely a jock. Do you identify yourself as being a jock?
Honestly, not really.
No.
Like I guess maybe in high school I kind of did, but like my school was kind of small and like almost everyone in my school I felt like did like some sport. Like there were so many sports. So like in a way, like there was really no like jocks in my school because we all kind of did some kind of sport.
Yeah, I think that's something that's changed in recent years, especially I think for your generation. I think in the past, people who were nerds. They stayed right here. People who were jocks were jocks. But for you guys, the world is more integrated. I feel like everyone realizes that, it's a good idea to play sports. It's a good idea to work out. It's a good idea to read. Maybe you should be smart and study. You know what I mean? that those terms kind of are still around, but they don't hold the same weight that I think they once did.
No, they don't. And I think it definitely has to do with the times too, because, you want to play college basketball or whatever sport it is, you need a certain GPA, In high school, you want to get recruited, you need to have a certain GPA to get into the school, unless you're that amazing that, they're willing to take a gamble on you and you're not going to fail out of college or fail your classes, but now it's not, and that's why they say we're student athletes. I don't know if you've heard of that term.
Yeah.
So at least in my high school, I remember them always telling us, you're student athletes, you're a student first, then an athlete. So without the student part, you can't be an athlete.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to transition to a little bit more shaky water because I think we're talking about gender or sex here because what you're saying to me sounds like that's 100% accurate for female athletes, that you need to not only be a good athlete, but good with your GPA. However, I would say that, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, that for the males, if you're a great quarterback or a guard or a pitcher or whatever sport or whatever position that you're great at, you can just go to college and they'll take care of your grades. Don't worry about it. You're bringing millions of dollars into this college. We need you. We want you. We'll take care of it.
I think maybe 10 years ago, it was a little bit more like that. I think now more and more with like social media and everything like that, everything getting out. Like, if you look at the whole thing that happened with the lady from Full House.
Oh, what happened with Lady Full House?
I don't remember her name, but they basically said she was an her daughter was an athlete to get into a university.
Uh-huh.
And she had to go to jail. They found it was like fraud.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so like, you know, and those are famous people that are doing that have the money, you know, they know people. So for this time and age, for that to come out and that be such a big thing, like 10 years ago, I don't think you would have ever heard of that. Or even 20 years ago, definitely you wouldn't have heard of that, you know, like grades weren't really a thing. But, you know, with social media, with everything being like, nothing can really be secretive anymore.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know, like there's nothing you can hide. So like you can't really fake a grade anymore, you know, or talk to a professor, like that's blackmail, you know?
Yeah. I think it still goes on, but I think you're right that it's probably a little bit less or a little bit more worried about it because there's so many more people with cameras or people willing to talk about like what's going on.
Yeah, and people are so quick to like post about it or write about it or tell a friend. So all it takes is you telling one person and it's out there, and then, you know, there goes your opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go into, okay, so you transitioned from basketball now into volleyball. Why'd you make that switch? And did that happen after you graduated high school, or did you play volleyball in high school as well?
So I actually, first time playing volleyball was freshman in high school, and I wanted to play before then. I remember I was playing CYO, and a parent had like talked about they were gonna have like a CYO volleyball team or whatever, and I told my parents like, oh, like I'd be interested in doing that. I want to try it, and it just kind of never happened. So when I got to high school, I did try out for JV, and I played JV volleyball for 2 years. And then I played varsity my junior and senior year. So, and then actually a little bit more about me, my senior year, I was a captain of the basketball and volleyball team.
There you go.
Oh, and another one, when I graduated high school, so for my school, they do something like a Hall of Fame. So they select one male and one female. And you have to, there's like certain requirements. So I think you have to be on the team for a certain amount of time, maybe, and then you have to have an MVP award from them, and you could be nominated by the coaches of being considered Hall of Fame.
And did you get into the Hall of Fame?
I did. I was the one female in my graduating class that got it. So
congratulations.
Like, now, if I go to my school, like my high school, like I'm in the hallway, like there's a photo of me and like a plaque.
That is awesome. That is amazing. Congratulations.
One of my few accomplishments that I hold.
You sound okay. So I'm now going to start talking about the differences about our generation, like me, your mom, your dad, and you, because I feel like things were rougher for us. It was way more dangerous. We didn't have as much. Do you feel the same way, or what's your sense of it?
I definitely agree with that. Like knowing what, like the things that I do know about like my parents' childhood, like I know it was definitely really rough for them. And, I have to say I'm so thankful and grateful for them, because I think because of those experiences that they went through is the reason, I was brought up the way I was, and I was given the things I was given. And, like, I was very fortunate. From as long as I can remember, I've always, for the most part, lived in a house. I've always had my own room. Like, my mom always made sure, like, you and your brother will always have your own room. Like, that's just one of those things. Like,
because we didn't.
yeah, pretty much. There's 5 of you guys were in one room, so.
Yeah. So I my nephew Christian, and now my kids. I look at you guys, and I'm just like amazed, like the way you guys have it. I'm not jealous. I'm not saying that, because like we're giving you guys, we want you guys to have these things, but we do. It's a big contrast when we think about the way we were raised and what we had to go through, or our parents, like your grandparents, like your grandfather. I could tell you stories about him growing up, like in Puerto Rico, like where they were like throwing rocks at chickens. There's one time how my parents met. Your grandfather started an illegal club. He found an abandoned building, and another one of Uncle Tony wired up, because he was an electrician. He wired up this like abandoned candy store or something like that. They turned it into like an illegal nightclub, and they were singing in there because he always loved singing. And my dad was in the band, so he was singing. My dad was playing the congas, and then his sister went there, and that's how my parents met. That's their story. But can you imagine that now today, like somebody just taking an abandoned building and making that like an illegal nightclub?
I knew he had a nightclub, but he never ever told me it was
illegal.
That's part of the story.
Yeah. They're just a different group of people from a different time, and I'm glad that you feel that way. Like you like, I have all this stuff. Do you feel a pressure that you need to perform, you need to do well because your parents have made this sacrifice for you?
I think a little bit, but like, my mom and my dad, like my dad was more like the sports and my mom was more like school. So like my mom was like, you have to, like, she had very high expectations for me and my brother. Like there was always, I think she just knew how smart we were and how capable we were of doing well, that she always tried to push us and, set high goals for us, like we weren't allowed to get anything lower than an 80. If you got anything 80, like that was an issue and we had to work on it.
That's good. Did you like the academics? Do you like school, or was it just mostly I go because of sports?
I didn't like homework. I can tell you that. Me neither. Homework was a very big issue for a very long time. I don't think I hated school so much, but I wasn't like a huge fan of it. Like I always enjoyed math.
Okay.
A lot of people don't like math, but I was a math fan.
There you go. Don't worry, I'll edit it out. I'll cut it all out.
Okay. Oh my gosh, my throat. Edit this out too.
That's okay. So I'll talk for you a little bit because I agree with you. I don't know why, but as a kid, I was like, homework is not fair. I go to school all day. I give you my full attention. I behaved. You assigned me work. I did the work in class. Now I'm done. I should be able to play and do fun, do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, no, I never liked homework. Growing up, I lied all the time. Like, yeah, I did my homework, and I sure did not do my homework.
Oh.
Yeah, there was many incidents that we had where it was like parent teacher. Oh, such a nice girl, so smart. Like she talks a lot. Like, missing homework. Like those were the issues were homework and I talked too much in class. Okay.
I don't think I talked that much, but I probably did. But I know the homework was a big issue for me.
Well, I actually had And this will kind of like show how like my mom was very serious about grades. When I was in the 3rd grade, I scored really bad on my math test. And when I saw the grade, I was like, I'm going to be in big trouble. So I erased the answers that were wrong and I wrote the correct ones, gave it to my mom, and my mom's like, she marked all of these wrong. I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, man.
She wrote a letter to my teacher, like, you marked all these wrong. Yeah, there's some stories that I really put myself in bad situations. Wrote the teacher a letter, like, you marked these wrong or whatever. I give it to my teacher,
Thinking whatever, right? Yeah.
Maybe she didn't realize she missed these questions. Like, so the teacher realized, she said that she can see the erasing markings on them. So I got in trouble for that one.
Wow.
The teacher obviously told my mom, so I got caught about that. But like, it was like I couldn't come home with bad grades. Like,
yeah. But it sounds like, I think people always, it's kind of a conversation about parenting and stuff like that. And a lot of people say, like, you shouldn't put pressure on your kids or not too much. It sounded like she wasn't too bad, but that could be an issue because I focus on it too, because I think there is saying that there never should be any pressure. I don't think that's a good idea. I tell my kids, look, I'm okay with the grade that you get as long as I know you put the effort. You did your best to try to get that. And if you're just not getting, you're not capable of it, but I see that you put the effort to it, that's fine. Yeah. That's the thing, because you notice that when they put the effort into it, they do a lot better. It's kind of weird how that works.
Yeah, and I think that was one of my mom's biggest things was like, if I really applied myself, like, I was a very smart girl. Like, in high school, I think, like, it was my junior year, only because I knew colleges looked at your junior year. They were all like, junior year is the year you got to do the best. I think one semester or whatever quarters it was, I ended up getting a 96 average.
Nice.
But like then all the rest of high school was like getting like an 85, 86. Some of them were like 89s. Like, if I really applied myself and did well, I was able to get the high grades. But my mom always was like, my laziness sometimes like got the best of me, not wanting to do the homework, not wanting to like do, the assignments or whatever it was that.
Yeah, I get it. Let's pivot, because this is something that I'm into very much. I don't know why. I think because I'm at that age in my life where it's like I remember how things used to be, and I'm also I'm a middle-aged guy. I could see the future and stuff like that. One of the big things that is different for me, I think dating today is very difficult. I think about my kids and the advice that I got as a kid when it came to like dating. I think it's completely 180 or just, I don't know. It's like a weird time. I can't relate to it. What are your thoughts? You think dating is a lot different now for people your age, vice say your parents, your grandparents?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think a lot of it has to do with like the mindset of people nowadays. I think that changes things a lot too.
Explain that. What do you mean? What's their mindset?
So I say this sometimes too, like my boyfriend, I feel like has more of an old-fashioned mindset.
Okay.
So my relationship with my boyfriend kind of reminds me of like my grandparents' relationship.
Okay. How so?
You wouldn't really see nowadays because, a lot of it is like, the woman can do, take care of herself. She's independent. She has money in her own job. I think it also has to do with just me and my boyfriend have an age gap. So we're in different parts of our lives too. So like my boyfriend has his career started, full-time job, and I'm still a college student. So, but like he, let me not say like expectations, but like cook, clean, like taking care of the household. Like
He seems more mature. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think it's just that he has an older mindset, like more of like how, my grandmother, Cindy, like she took care of the house. My grandfather went to work and took care of her.
Mhm.
And she took care of the house to take care of him. That was her way of showing like her appreciation for him
Right.
and the brought to the table. That was their dynamic.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't nowadays, I wouldn't not work for like while being in a relationship and have the man take care of me so much. But I think there's still, and I think I'm still trying to figure that out too.
Yeah.
Because like I don't have a career yet. Like I'm okay with doing, like, I do the dishes, I'll cook, I do his laundry. Not many women do that nowadays and are willing to do those things. But, I'm okay with that now, but my responsibilities aren't that great. Like I don't have a family, I don't have kids to take care of, like I don't have a full-time job that I'm coming home exhausted. Like I feel like I'm fine doing those things now, but maybe in 5-10 years when I have all those things, I may not be okay with doing all of those things along with having a full-time job and, family.
Yeah. So I want to share my thoughts and I want to hear your opinions. My opinion is that I love what's going on with women today. You guys are so much more empowered than the generations before us, especially like, my parents, your grandparents. I think about, because we had, people don't know, on your grandfather's side, right? He was one of 8 children. It was 2 boys and 6 women. So I grew up with a lot of women over me, which was fine. Never had an issue with like a woman telling me what to do or whatever. That was just normal in our family. But I look at the opportunities that they had, and I know that they had a lot less than people today. So when I see you doing what you're doing, or other women that I've met doing what they're doing, I'm so like grateful for that, because I wish that those ladies would have had that, and how things could have been different had they had those opportunities. But I also feel that with that opportunity, there's sort of a pressure. Women have it harder than men, because I think women have to be 2 different people, because they're being told that, girlfriend, you can do anything and you can have everything. I believe the first part of that. You can do anything, just the same as a man, but you can't have everything. You can't have that great career and have a great family, because they're just kind of opposite. Because great career means a lot more time focused on this side, which means a lot less time focused on this side. You can have a decent career and a decent family. I think you could do that, but you can't have one of them, both of them great. Does that make any sense to you what I'm saying? Do you feel that?
You're saying, like, because the responsibilities and the time that you have to put into each thing is like, there's just not enough time to give yourself to all of that, and then also be happy yourself,
Yeah.
and it's hard to balance those two. I don't have a family, so there's only so much I can say about it, but I see it with my own mom, like she works, she comes home, like me and my brother are older now, so she doesn't have to worry so much. But I remember it being a lot, like she'd work all day and then having to come home to like deal with me and my brother, like even the homework situation, like having to deal with us, like it can be very exhausting and like challenging on her.
Stressful,
and
very stressful.
very stressful. I definitely seen it a lot. So it's like, it makes me wonder like what it's going to be like when I am at that stage in my life, and how will I balance that, because I do think it's very important. Like family means so much to me. I think the way my parents raised me, like we sat down every single day for dinner together at 6:00, like that, you sat around the table together, you talked,
That's
like
awesome.
you didn't phone at the table. Like that's how it was for years in my house. So, I value family a lot, but then it's like, now you also have to worry about a career and making money and, being able to provide for your family.
Yeah.
And in each relationship, it'll change. Some people are more comfortable with the man taking on more or the woman taking on more or being 50-50. I think it comes down to each individual of deciding that for themselves. But I definitely feel like nowadays, like, you see more 50-50, probably,
Yeah.
I would say,
yeah, you're right. The exception would be that sometimes one partner in the relationship makes so much money that the other person really doesn't have to work. And if they choose not to, then they do that. And it could be the man, it could be the woman. It doesn't matter.
I have a question for you. Like, in your opinion, do you feel like this will, like, kind of, one, how it affects a man's ego?
Mhm.
Because, I think that plays a role too, of, like, being a man in a relationship. And what if you're in a relationship with a woman that makes way more than you, like, and can provide better for your family than you can,
Yeah. Thank you for asking me that question. I think it's good. So yeah, the ego, a lot has been said about the male ego, and it's a thing that I've had issue with my whole life. Although, because of the way I was raised, I had an older sister. My sister Carol is 10 years older than me. So when I was growing up, it was like almost like I had two mothers, or my aunts. You know what I mean? So I think, as far as me, like, listening to women and having women in an authoritative position, it was never a thing. But as far as, like, ego, like you're saying directly, like, what if, say, my wife made more money than me? She's asked me this question too. We've had these talks, and she feels like I would have an issue with it. And on the surface, I would say that no, I don't. Like, yeah, I'll stay home. I'll do this, but I don't love doing that. Like, times where I have to do most of the traditionally female roles, I don't love it. I don't have as much patience for the children, raising the children, as much as my wife does. But more direct, you're talking about, like, even, like, do you feel less of a man because your wife is wearing the pants and bringing home the bread? I don't think I would, but I will qualify what I'm saying that if I'm not doing something that feels manly, yes, I will feel. I have to. So here's why I say I think I don't have a problem, because I do a podcast and I write. I wrote my first book, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. So as long as I'm doing something that's directing me towards eventual outcome, maybe, I'll make some money off of one of these things, I feel okay. But if I wasn't doing these things and all I was doing was the traditional female roles, I think there's a possibility that I would feel a little less masculine. But there's another factor to consider on this, which is, it's not just what you're thinking, it's also what people are thinking of you. And anyone who tells you what people think of you doesn't matter, it shouldn't, but it does. If it affects you, if people are saying a certain thing, if people are going around and saying, that Richard, that Blanco, what's up? It's going to affect you. You know what I mean? Even if you don't want to think that way, you don't want to feel that way, it would. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So going off that too, now if you have a man who, it doesn't affect his ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think with the times of women being more empowered and more of that role, that men will kind of step back and be like, you take care of me now. Like, do you think more men are going to be like, I'm okay with my wife taking care of everything. I'll stay home, do the little things around the house.
Yeah, I think so. Looking at the trends, statistically speaking, it's already happening a lot more. We have good friends from California that do that. We know some people that do. The wife just makes a lot more money, and it just makes more sense. So, like you said, like, you value family valuables. We do. Like, that's a thing of our family. My wife doesn't work. She can. She has 2 bachelor's degrees. She's very smart, very capable. But I told her, look, the job that I have is going to take me away a lot. So you need to be like a single mom, basically. It's better for our kids, for our family, if you stay home. She can work. She's more than capable of doing it, you know? But I'd rather her be there for her kids. When I see my kids go to school and get good grades, or, you know, someone meets our kids and they go, wow, your kids are so well behaved. I'm like, yeah, because they have someone there with them when they come home, taking them to school, picking them up from school, when they need to do their homework, teaching them life lessons, or making sure they do their chores. If you don't have that, if both parents are working and striving towards a career, I think the family loses out on that. And I'm not telling people how to live their lives, but that's the reality. We need to face that. That's a truth. You know, I'm all for, like I said, the empowerment of women and everything, but we need to face facts. You could do whatever you want to do. You have the right to be whoever you want to be. But the truth is the truth. If you're going to try to be great at your career or whatever like that, something else is going to sacrifice because of that. It could be your relationship. It could be your kids, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think personally, like I've thought about it before too. Like if I had kids, I think, like, you know, kids grow up so fast and their childhood is just so crucial. And they, you know, especially I'm an education major, so I take early education classes and read about these things and how much like kids learn in even just the first like 24 months of their lives, you know? So like that's something I've thought about, like, you know, maybe, you know, I'm saying this now, who knows in the future, but, you know, maybe when I do have kids, maybe the first few years before they start actually going to school, like I'd stay home and actually spend that quality time with my kids, you know, like, and you see them grow every single day, you know, like it's not the same, but I have a younger sister from my dad and my stepmom, and she's 5 years old right now. And when I went away for college to Cortland, she was only a couple months old. And like, being away, I was only away for like 4 or 5 months, but those 4 or 5 months like was so crucial. Like I felt like I missed out on so much, and she got so big so fast.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah.
So I like what you said. I think that there are a lot of studies, because, you know, you said you're taking those child development courses, stuff like that, says that those first, you know, few years or months or whatever are very critical. So I would advise you, if you do have children, take that first year or two off if you can, if you guys can, you know, and just bond, connect with the kid. So thank you for asking me that question, talking about the male ego and stuff like that. Let's go a little deeper into that. You being a female athlete, you know, athletes have to be like strong and aggressive, but, you know, you're a woman, you got to be pretty and soft and all that stuff like that. Do you find that there's a challenge for you with that, or do the men that you've dated have an issue with that?
I don't think it's been so much of a challenge dating wise. I think it was a little bit of a challenge growing up, like, and I think it has to do with my parents too. Like, I wasn't very girly for a long time. You know, like my mom didn't dress me up in really girly things, you know, like I played basketball in middle school. Like I didn't really have my own sense of fashion yet. I think I really started to learn that in high school. That's really when I started to be like, oh, wow, like I'm pretty, like, you know, like, oh, wow, I have a body for a girl, you know, like things that you don't really pay attention to, you know, until you're at that age where those are.
When the hormones kick in?
Yeah, when, you know, you're in high school. So it's like your appearance, what is your body type like? So I think that's kind of when I came more into like my girliness, I guess you could say. Like that's where it started for me. Like I enjoy getting my nails done, but like I'm a basketball coach. So I'm coaching right now, and it's a little challenging sometimes when I'm in practice, but like, you know, it's hard sometimes, the mix between the two, because they kind of don't line up with each other. Right.
That's what I'm talking about, like those traditional roles. And, you know, the future, who knows what it's going to look like. I think that like kind of like what you mentioned, I think there's a blending. I think that, you could see like the both sex roles are kind of blending together. So what that new definition is going to be, I don't know, because I think there's always going to be a separate. I don't think they're just going to be we're just human beings and sex doesn't matter. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think there's still going to be differences between men and women. Have you ever, or any of the ladies that you've played sports with, I think you said yourself, you never found an issue with a guy, but you think that there was a guy who looked at you, or one of your friends who was like, yeah, she's hot or something, but I don't like the way, because some men really want their women to be like very docile.
Yeah. No, I think honestly, it might have helped me more. If anything wise, I think at least because I use that sport world to kind of like connect myself to the male side, because most men like sports, so like at least in high school when I first started dating, I guess you can say like, I played basketball, so like I was attracted to other athletes. So like, being able to like know like you put in so much time into a sport and you have such passion for it, and understanding what it's like to be in that world.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up here in about another maybe 10 minutes or so. Okay, just want to give you a heads up. So yeah, like the jock world, or were you attracted, you would say, to men who were athletic? I think you did say that, right? Okay, so, and do you think most athletic men, jocks, are into dating female jocks?
I don't know. That's a tricky one, because most guys like girly girls, but like that was my thing though, like in sports, and I think also the sport you play.
Okay, yeah.
Affects that, like volleyball players, like you wear little booty shorts,
Yeah, it's more attractive, right?
Yes, like that's more attractive than if I'm on a basketball court with some baggy basketball shorts, jersey, like, like I'm sure more guys would prefer to be at a volleyball game watching me in little shorts.
That's true, yeah. The only thing better would probably be like beach volleyball.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the sport you play too is like, basketball is more of an aggressive sport. Like volleyball is not a contact sport,
No, but when you spike though, like,
Yeah, but I think guys like that too, in a way that like, that you kind of have that like fire, that funk to you in a way, like, like you're not just like, I'm afraid, or, like you're not afraid to put yourself out there and do something.
Yeah. Do you think that was part of it for you when you made that transition to volleyball? Is that, I could be more pretty and feminine playing volleyball, because of the way they dress and everything?
I never really thought about it so much. It didn't, like volleyball was more just an enjoyment for me. So it wasn't so much as like my appearance for it. Yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap it up, and I'll give you a chance if like there's anything you want to ask me, you can ask me too. Is you've heard of like alpha males, betas, and stuff like that? When I surf the internet and I listen to other podcasts and stuff like that, this is like a really big thing. Have you heard anything about this? Like, do some of the ladies you work with consider themselves alpha women, or do you think you're attracted to alpha men and stuff like that? Or what's your definition of that anyway? Because I think that's kind of a gray area too.
I guess like I would see someone like male, female, if they're an alpha, like they're in charge, they're dominant, they have that lead role, and like having the control. I think that's kind of what it is, and kind of choosing. And I think with control, like you kind of know what to expect and can change things yourself, compared to like if you're not that alpha or whatever, you're kind of like in the shadow or following what someone else says or does in a way,
So would you consider yourself an alpha female?
Let me think about that for a second.
Okay, so go back to that one. Do you consider yourself, or do you think you're attracted to alpha males?
I think I am. I think, well, at least in my relationship, I can say in my relationship, like my boyfriend is like the dominant one. I think he definitely like takes the lead, the role. And like going back to like my grandparents, like I call them Wello and Wella, but
Yeah.
Wello was the lead. Like he took charge, like he was the lead. And I think maybe that's why I'm comfortable in my relationship is like I was exposed to that for so long that's like normal to me in a way.
Yeah.
You know, the times we're in, it's not considered normal. Like that's kind of like.
So do you feel most ladies your age are attracted to alpha men, or do you feel like there's pushback, or do you feel like any guilt, like, oh, why am I attracted to this like more dominant man?
I think it depends on the woman. I think it depends on her personality because I know women that, you know, want to be, you know,
The boss.
I'm the boss and that's it. And then I know women, and I guess you could say I'm technically kind of one of them that like, I don't mind if my boyfriend takes the lead or he's more dominant. Like, I think I'm very a go with the flow type of person. And like, I'm just kind of, I roll with it. That I think that's why I guess you could say it's a little bit more like, I'm not as like the lead role or alpha, like.
Yeah. In my opinion, I don't even like these roles. I don't even like the definition of them. To me, like, how can you compare humans to like monkeys and tigers? Like that, you know what I mean? Like we're way too complex of a thing, of a living species to be compared to use those references. So people who use those, I understand what they're trying to say, but I don't think it's accurate depiction of how humans truly interact.
Yeah, and you can't say one person is like definitely completely an alpha because, you know, maybe one situation you are, but in another situation you may not be. You know, it may depend on the person you're with or not with, or the situation you're in that can affect that role.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if you're a man or a woman who wants to be with someone that makes every decision for you. I was going to tell you know, actually, you don't think that. Here, let me tell you what you think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it just kind of doesn't. Yeah, it just kind of doesn't work. But hey, thank you so much for coming on, Kaitlin. Is there anything you want to ask me or talk about before we go? This is your opportunity. Curiosities.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I just wanted to give you the opportunity because you know, like I said, we don't get to talk that often. But this was great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.